This is loot from the first Mephistos dog kill of 100 in the Season 8 PTR. Although these drops had no greater affixes this time, this new Season 8 boss is on the same tier as Duriel and Andariel, which means Mythic uniques, baby! On run 9, we find a Mythic unique. Oh ho ho! Ethereal's Might. Mythic, baby! Also, from the Belial spawn, a 1-star Flicker Step. On run 14, we find a 2-star X-Foul ring. The number of uniques that had exactly one greater affix from both Mephistos and Belial was 54 uniques. On run 16, we find a 2-star Banished Lord's Talisman. Also, a Jaw rune. And from the Belial spawn, we find an Ahu rune. An Ahu rune. On run 18, from the Belial spawn, we find a Quad Husk drop. Ho ho! Quad Husk drop, baby! The amount of runs where Mephistos and Belial dropped loot with no greater affixes at all was 52 runs. On run 25, from the Belial spawn, we find a Quad Husk drop. Oh, Quad Husk, baby! Also, a 1-star Azure Wrath. On run 31, we find an Ahu rune. On run 43, we find a Jaw rune. Oh, Jaw rune. The most amount of consecutive runs where Belial did not spawn was 5 runs in a row. On run 46, we find a Yule rune. On run 54, we find a 1-star Black River. Also, a 1-star Tybalt. And from the Belial spawn, we find a Mythic unique. Ho ho ho! A Grandfather. Mythic, baby! On run 62, from the Belial spawn, we find a Quad Husk drop. Ho ho! Quad Husk! Also, a 1-star Flicker Step. On run 69, from the Belial spawn, we find a Mythic unique. Ho ho ho! Ethereal's Might. Mythic unique, baby! Also, a 1-star Banished Lord's Talisman. On run 75, from the Belial spawn, we find a Quad Husk drop. Ho ho! Quad Husk, baby! Also, a 1-star Tybalt. Also, a Nagu rune. On run 79, from the Belial spawn, we find a Mythic unique. Ho ho ho! A Grandfather. Mythic unique, baby! On run 80, we find a 1-star Bloodless Scream. And from the Belial spawn, a 1-star Flicker Step. Also, a Nagu rune. On run 94, from the Belial spawn, we find a 1-star Godslayer crown. Also, a Lith rune. The number of legendary runes that dropped over the 100 runs was 7 legendary runes. On run 95, we find a Mythic unique. Ho ho ho! A Shaco. Mythic, baby! On run 97, from the Belial spawn, we find a 2-star Mother's Embrace. The amount of times Belial spawned in the 100 runs was 61 times. On run 99, from the Belial spawn, we find a Quad Husk drop. Ho ho! Quad Husk! And on the final run, run 100, do we find a Mythic unique? No. 5 Mythic uniques from Mephistos Dog and Belial? That's really good!